board meeting of the Pullman Public Schools Board of Directors to order. We'll begin with our flag salute. Ms. Amanda Tanner, would you lead us in the flag salute, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Next, I will read our land acknowledgement statement. Pullman Public Schools reside on the homelands of the Nimiipuu Nez Perce people. We express our deepest respect for and gratitude towards the original and current stewards of this land. We acknowledge our role in building mutual respect and connections to support current and future generations. Next, we will need to approve the agenda this evening. Are there any changes?
There are no changes to the agenda tonight.
I move to approve the agenda.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Are there any questions on the motion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Next, we'll go to board members, what's that? Oh, yes, sorry. PHS ASB report with Connor. Please come on up. I almost breezed right past you there. I'm sorry about that.
Nothing this week.
See, I kind of felt that. I was just,
Yeah. So since the last school board meeting, we've really just been focusing on adding some new stuff to our ASB constitution to make it better for us when people leave ASB halfway through the year, stuff like that. Just make it more consistent across the grades and just like positions in ASB. And then I think I already talked about prom last time. That's going to be May 31st, and that's been finalized at this point because it was between two dates last time I think. It's been finalized now. Yeah, Constitution and prom. It's kind of all we're working on at the moment.
Cool. Are there any questions? All right, thanks for the update.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Connor.
All right, and next we will go to board reports, and I'll start with Craig Nelson.
No report, thanks.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Greg. Lisa?
Yeah, I just have a few reports, mostly related to Jefferson, and the PTA met last week. Family Engineering Night is coming up, which is really exciting, and a number of other events coming up. I would say similar to ASB, this is a good planning for kind of everything that's left in the year time. And with that, there's also there was a good report about the gathering that happened at Sunnyside Elementary about smartphones and technology, which was a gathering of parents. There's another one of those coming up on March 24th, also at Sunnyside, and so that's a really nice effort between schools and mostly just kind of sharing perspectives about introducing devices with our young children. And then also with that, I just wanted to this came up at the meeting, so I just wanted to share that this is a good time to get involved. I think sometimes we get far enough through the year and people feel like they have to wait till like next year to get involved with things. And I'm probably only talking directly to people who are involved, but I think that the more that we can invite others to come to meetings, I think it's easy to forget that it's actually kind of nerve-wracking to show up at your first PTO or PTA meeting, and not everybody is super comfortable in the schools the way that the kids are, and so just wanted to mention that the parents who run those, I mean, it's volunteer, it takes a lot of work, and this would be a time of year where some extra support would be really appreciated, but it's also a good time if you're just thinking about your next year already. This would be a good time to try out some of those meetings and roles and see what fits for you.
Thank you, Lisa. Aaron?
LMS brought back their awards ceremony. The last one they had was March of 2020, right before everything shut down, so they were pretty excited to be able to get back. And yeah, as far as I heard, they had 3 different nights, one for each grade level, and they all went well. And like I say, everybody I think was excited to be able to get back together and celebrate the success of those students and eat a cookie or two, so it was all good.
Thank you, Aaron. Amanda?
Just to follow up on Lisa talking about the social media roundtable at Sunnyside, like she said, there is another one on March 24th, and they also provide childcare, so don't let that stand in the way of attending if you're interested in that. And then I was just going to briefly touch on a couple things. I know last meeting I said I would send everybody an email about the board dinner, and I have not done that, so I apologize. I will try to get that out tomorrow. And then secondly, I met with Wendy Kruger a couple weeks ago about the 2025 WIAA proposed amendment changes. And I forward you all the 23-page document that outlines all of that. And I also met with her and she kind of went over with me where the 17 ADs and the GSL, which is the region that we participate in, 2A and 3A ADs are thinking about standing on those things. I will be, if you guys still want to provide feedback to me, I will be emailing our board director liaison for District Area 10 next Tuesday, because he gets to submit his advisory vote for our DA area next Wednesday. So any feedback on that, go ahead and send my way, and I will be happy to share that with our representative. And then we just had a really good talk about kind of where athletics and activities are standing this year. We have 128 students registered for track and field, which is pretty cool. We have 8 spring sports we're offering and about 20 athletic teams during the year and 33 clubs, and a lot of those are run by volunteer advisors. And we are currently standing 3rd for the academic cup in the state. So those were the updates I got from
Nice.
Wendy Kruger.
Thank you very much. I just had a few things. Had the pleasure of attending the search committee for the principal position here at Pullman High School. And I'm super excited just for the candidate that we nominated. They got glowing reviews from the staff and the community members that attended the listening session, and so I'm just super excited personally. I also wanted to just briefly go through the communication plan. Courtney, would you mind pulling that up, please? So just once a month, we go through our communication plan just because there's lots of budgetary changes right now. Before I get going, does anyone have any thoughts or changes right now? Okay. I would say that we do have a couple of things to discuss. One would be, I've been filling out the, like basically writing a little snippet for the superintendent newsletter each month, just kind of like whatever I think of. And so it would be nice to get some more board input on that. And so if you all would like to have certain topics, I know we've been focusing mainly on like budgetary issues, which is sort of, apropos, right? But if there are any other things that you think you would like to mention in that venue, because it is a direct line to staff, and so it's a good place to kind of dump stuff that we want them to know. It's just things that are super long, so like maybe a couple of paragraphs, a couple of statements, things like that. And then for community update, I think I'm up for April. I'm up for May, but it's due at the end of March. Justin wrote on our new software for controlling screen time usage, which is cool. What are y'all's thoughts on the topic subject matter? I know we were kind of trying to keep it budget focused, but I don't know what I'm going to know by now that's going to be relevant in May, frankly, just because it changes a lot. And so I was thinking maybe summarizing our listening session, just because it's happening that month, and so I could probably get that in. And then talking about ways to bring feedback into the district about budget stuff. And so that way it can give people one more plug for this is how you get your voice out, this is how you get your feedback in. And then we go into May, which is just so that you know, we're really going to have to start making some decisions on that in April and May. And so that's going to be right around that time. So y'all think that's a good plan, or? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I would say with that, maybe like a timeline of what's still yet to come at that point. I know we might be able to anticipate that, even though you have to write it in advance, as far as, what we're likely to still be waiting on in May. And maybe even a little preview of like what happens over the summer.
Those are good
Unless
idea.
that would be something we want to do in June instead.
In June, we'll probably write about how the legislative session has been extended. So.
Yeah.
No, I love those ideas. Thank you very much. I like the timeline idea, just because I think it's just super confusing for people what's going on, and everything's going to come suddenly. And so it's like, I think stretching it out and kind of showing the process is important. So I think I might focus on kind of what we've been doing, what we get out of the listening session, and then sort of what is coming down the pike, if that's cool. So is that everybody in agreement? All right. And then that concludes my update, and so I'll pass it on to Dr. Maxwell.
All right, thank you very much. Just a fun fact that tomorrow will be 5 years since we met in this building and told staff we're going to be out for 2 weeks, which turned into a year and a half, by the way. So just little fun trivia fact. I can still remember it like yesterday. So, couple things. The AI task force met earlier this week, and I kind of shared a little bit of the board feedback, and so there was also some other feedback from members of that task force. So we met for our hour, and then we each have some little bit of homework assignments to do a little bit more research, but we also decided to set a goal to have quote unquote a final guideline to you by April. So we have something in place, and of course knowing that we may have to revisit that occasionally. We also are working on a form to evaluate AI tools that inevitably are popping up a lot, and so kind of like we have with our app form, so it goes through a process. We talked about what that process would look like, who would have to sign off, and who would basically validate or vet those particular AI tools if that was to happen. So good conversation, great group. I also want to recognize that it's Education Support Professionals Week. And so March 10th through the 14th is Education Support Professionals Week, formerly known as Classified Week. And that's a tradition that was started in 1975 by the PSE group to recognize the contribution of education support professionals. And so, because they are so important to the functions of our school and our district and being able to operate. And so again, it's a week to celebrate. And we set up the option of families or communities can send e-cards to our classified staff if they'd like. And they can visit our website for information on how to do an e-card if they would like to do that to recognize our education support professionals. So just wanted to share that as well. Also just wanted to give the board an update. The state of Washington is moving to one particular high school and beyond plan. Right now, every district uses whatever plan they would like, and as kids transfer across the state or district to district, it's been a real problem because they're not consistent in structure. So the state has signed a contract with a company called School Links, and so it's going to be a 2-year rollout across the state. We applied to getting to cohort 1, which is next year, and I found out we were accepted finally. So we now have some classes and webinar we have to attend, which involves administration, counselors, tech, and so to prepare for that. So something new, but we either do it next year or we do it the following year. You don't have a choice. Everybody's going to go to this particular format. So, which I think is a great idea to have it similar across districts, but I also realize it's something new always is a challenge because it's unfamiliar and we have to learn new things. So, but just to let you know that that will be happening starting this coming year. So, and then just I'll end with quickly, we have spring sports and activities in full swing, which you just heard a little bit of an update from Amanda. So I'll leave it at that.
Any questions for Bob? All right, thank you very much, Dr.
You're welcome.
Maxwell. Okay, and then now we will move to program reports and begin with Debbie and the Pullman High School Showcase.
So Mr. Mulkey's going to introduce them as they come in. So,
There's a lot of them.
Come on in. Come on in. Oh, you keep going to the podium. Keep going to the desk. Keep going to the desk. You're fine. Bring it in. Oh, you got to center?
Start center themselves? Okay.
All right, don't let us distract. I'm just heckling from the
They
audience.
know what they're doing.
I know.
They're professionals.
treble triad. There's 29 of us singers that meet Tuesdays and Thursdays, 0 period. Not everybody could make it tonight. And that is the first of 2 Italian folk songs we're going to sing for you. About a butterfly, right? And this one is about a firefly. Exchange students from Italy this year, and Mary came in and helped us with our Italian on that, which is a good thing since that is outside of my skill set. So we're going to have Megan, one of our outstanding seniors, just share really briefly like what treble triad means to her, and then we got one more for you.
Hi, I'm Megan Stratton. I've been in treble triad for 4 years, so the whole time. My mom's in treble triad back in the good old days. It's always been good. I love this class. I've been doing it. I mean, I've never thought about leaving this class. I am here at 7 a.m. twice or 3 times a week, and I wouldn't trade anything for it. It's such it's a small group. This is like the biggest group that we've had in a while, but like you really get to know people in this class, and it feels like a really tight-knit, like quality community, and like some really good singers. I love this class.
Treble triad, we have records going back to like 1905, and we have in our they used to do these yearbooks at the end of the year with pictures in them, and we have them all through the 50s and 60s. It's kind of a really cool connection, and we went and sang for PEO a few years ago, and a bunch of the old folks in there had sung in treble triad way back, and so it's really fun to sort of have a connection back, way back. So, and one of my favorite things in this choir is it's 9th through 12th grade. And I think it's just is so great for seniors to get to take under their wing some freshmen, and they get to know each other and support each other and get out of those silos of grades a little bit. And it just is the easiest class I teach because nobody shows up. I mean, nobody signs up that they don't want to be there and want to sing. So it just is really fantastic. So the other thing I like to do is we do lots of different kinds of music. So we're going to do Miley Cyrus for you now. So
Nice.
Altos.
Every step I'm taking, every move
Thank you all for sharing.
Thank
This
you.
was fantastic. You like made my night. This is great. Y'all keep up the great work. And the tradition. I love it. 1905? Seriously? During 20 years ago. You don't look antsy there, Justin.
I didn't say.
We were ready for the transportation update yet.
Trying to not waste time.
All right, I'd like to ask Justin Polstead, our Executive Director of Operations, to come up. Oh, he's there.
All right, thank you, everyone. Here for a transportation update, and we do that from time to time throughout the year. And so this one we'd like to focus on tonight is who are we transporting? Okay. How do we get them to school? We're looking at potentially making a change, so why would we make a change? And what does a change look like and that impact on our students? Okay. So currently right now, our student transportation status is that we transport all of our students, K-12, that are in the rural parts of our district. In town is where it's a little bit different. We transport our K through 5, but our 6 through 12 rely on Pullman Transit. Okay? And earlier in the fall, in October, we did a listening session. And one of the topics of the listening session was transportation. And so we got feedback that encouraged us as a district to explore transporting all of our students on yellow buses and what would that look like. And some of the common feedback was there was concerns about young students riding with adults. You know, there was about 6th graders that go to LMS riding with adults. Concerns about students having long wait times at the transfer station. And then also that, you know, the constraints of Pullman Transit. They're not here to just serve Pullman School District. They're also serving WSU and the community. And so when we try to, when we ask for things to adjust a little bit, they work with us, but it is not always that easy because they have other things that they're working on as well. So the challenge for us then is we want to transport more students without adding drivers, although we're trying to add more, but we can't predict the future, so we're going to go with the drivers we currently have. We're also going to make sure that we're transporting now all of our students over the entire 220 square miles of our district, because we've been able to have some gaps in there because we haven't been transporting some of our older students. And then also keep the time that students spend on the bus to a minimum. So that's fairly easy. All three of those things, that's no problem, right? That's a little bit of a challenge. Okay. So to find a path forward, what we did was I reached out to districts across the state that were similar in size to us. But part of that, though, is no district is exactly the same size or same population, different geography, those types of things. So some of those districts did staggered starts, and we'll talk about that a little bit. That's where, you know, elementary maybe goes at 8:30 and secondary goes at 9. We'll run through an example of that. They'll have designated rural schools, so every student that is rural goes to this elementary school. Not sure how that would fly in our district, but that's something that some schools do. Also have districts that are spending well over 70 minutes on the bus each way for their students. And so took some of that information and went to our transportation folks. Whoops, one too many. And we discussed that and what we could do. So just a reminder of how large our district is. That's Almota, and that's in our district. And we go up even beyond, you know, Albion up north and all the way down Johnson. I mean, it's a large area to cover with what we have. So what we've done, though, just for the sake of ease a little bit, was I just made a little bit of a kind of a safe little map here. So there's our schools in a general layout of how they are in our district. We know we've got Albion up to the northwest, we've got Johnson down on the southeast, 195 southwest, and then Airport Road. So just so we have a little bit of feel of what we're going to talk about here, because I'm going to throw a few things on this as we go. And what we want to look at here as an example is a morning route. So students in the morning, getting on the bus, getting to school, and we're going to run this as a staggered start, okay? And this is just an example of something that we went through many, many examples, tried lots of different options, and there's lots of hiccups to the options that we're running through. So what we're trying to do is find the best option that has the least impact on our kids and our families. So with this option, with the staggered start, we said let's just, for the sake of it, let's have elementary start at 8:30, secondary start at 9, okay? We can do that, that's not too far out of reach. But one thing that what we wanted to discuss though was, so let's say we have a bus that starts down on the southwest corner of the district and starts bringing students in. Now, we're in a spot right now where we're not planning to run multiple buses out into the rural parts of town. Let's say we have a family that lives in Johnson and they have an elementary and a middle and a high school student. We're probably not gonna run 3 buses to Johnson. We're gonna run 1 bus and grab all 3 of those kids and then get them to where they need to go once they're in town. So for this example here, the bus could come into town, they could gather students out on the southwest part of the district, come into town. If Sunnyside starts at 8:30, we could get there about, let's say, 8:10 or so. We could time it appropriately, get there at 10 after. Then that bus would then jump over to Lincoln and drop off, but Lincoln's starting at 9, so that's still plenty of time if we're there by 8:30-ish. Okay, kids can get in, get some food. The remaining students that need to go to the high school could get up there probably by 8:45, and that would work fairly well. So start-wise, we could make that happen. Where the challenge comes in is, as we know here, so if we're saying elementary starts at 8:30 and the high school starts at 9, that means at the end of the day, it's going to be just the opposite. We're going to have an extra half an hour at the high school. And so just what I wanted to discuss here was that let's pretend that the bus starts at the high school and goes in reverse. So at best, we're going to get kids on the bus at between 3:35 and 3:40 after school gets out. That bus is then going to run down to Lincoln and grab students 3:45-ish by the time they've grabbed students, and then head over to Sunnyside, and they got out at 3 o'clock. So now they've been waiting for 45, 50 minutes before they get on the bus to then ride for another 45, maybe minutes. So that's not excellent. And then we also talked about, okay, well, Sunnyside got out first, so let's start the bus at Sunnyside. So Sunnyside gets out, we get those students on the bus at 3:05, 3:10. They got to head up to the high school, pick up those students. Okay, the high school doesn't get out till 3:30, so they're going to wait. Either they're going to need supervision at school before they get on the bus, or the bus is going to have to stop and wait somewhere. Get the high school students, swing by Lincoln, and then swing out. So it's going to be about the same amount of time. It's about a 45-minute wait for those elementary students to do that type of route, that option. Okay, so that's not an ideal route. We have something a little bit better than that. But those are an example of some of the things that we've gone through. Like, well, that sounds pretty good. That morning looked good, right? And then all of a sudden, not so hot in the afternoon. So that's just one that was one we went through. Not great, but want to show you that the more that our time is staggered, the more we stagger our start and end time, the more we run into these types of problems where we have students waiting to go home. So an option that we wanted to go through that was a little bit more promising was we just called it a tandem because what we're going to end up doing is running a couple buses in each quadrant here. So what helps us in this one here is that we have a school in each quadrant there, right? Okay, so of the 4 quadrants, we've got Kamiak in 1, Jefferson in 2, Sunnyside 3, and Franklin in 4. So the idea here with the tandem routes, because again, we want to get all of our students from the district, from rural, and in the city to get them to school in a timely manner. So what we did was we broke that up. So we put a bus, we took each quadrant and broke it in half and put a bus on each half of it. Okay, so we got 8 buses running right now. And those buses would start out, if we were starting out on the Kamiak side, these buses are going to start out as far as they need to on each of their half and gather all the students as they come in and then go to Kamiak. And the same on this side, we collect all the students and come in and go to Kamiak. So for the sake of keep it a little bit simple, we're just going to focus on 1, but all 4 would be doing this, okay? So what we thought was that if we keep a fairly consistent start time, so right now we've got Franklin starting at 8:35, and then secondary, LMS and PHS starting at about 8:30. So those 2 buses would run their routes. They'd start as far as they need to, gather students all the way into town, and then the students in town, and then they would head to Franklin. And Franklin would become a little bit of a hub for us. Okay, so at Franklin, then what we would do is all the elementary students would get off of their bus because they're at their school. And then we'd have 2 buses, one that would go to the high school and one that would go to Lincoln. So if I'm on the south bus and I need to go to the high school, I would transfer right there, right? I'm a high school student on the bus that's going to Lincoln, so I'm gonna transfer over and get on the high school bus. That's gonna be really quick because it's not that many students. They do a quick swap. And then they head up to their schools. So if we dropped at Franklin around 8:10 or so, got those students to school, that gives them time to get breakfast, to get in and get set up for the day. And then if we go and jump in our buses and roll from there, we know that Franklin's only 5 minutes from Lincoln, so that's an easy one, no problem. High school takes maybe another 10 minutes, so we're up there by hopefully 8:15, so students have time to eat, get to school, there we go. So that works in the morning as well. We're hopeful that we could make that work in the afternoon by doing just the reverse. Okay, so buses would start at the high school, buses would start at Lincoln, and those buses would then roll from those schools to Franklin and do just the opposite. And we're doing similar things to this right now. So this would not be a huge stretch. So then they would roll back down to Lincoln, collect the students, the high school students that need to go on the opposite bus would transfer as well, and then there we go. Okay, and then they're gonna head out from there back all the way out through. Our thought was, the math that we've been doing, that this would probably add 20 minutes to the ride, for 20 to 25 minutes to the ride for students that live the furthest away out in those rural areas. Okay, this is I don't know if there's a perfect plan, and we're going to continue to refine and look at things, but this was the one that gave us the least amount of additional minutes for students. And it was what we could do with the current drivers that we have. So, as I just said, this is based on the drivers we have. If we can continue to add more drivers, we will do that, and we could then manipulate this and adjust times a little bit. The recruitment that we're doing has been working. We just this week, two more folks got completed, and so they're able to drive right now. That's wonderful. We have 2 more in process. This is besides the folks that are on our maintenance team that are going to be able to drive for us as well. So it's working. We're getting more folks, but I don't want to jump too far ahead and say, oh, we're going to have 8 more people to drive next year so we can do a totally different plan. We have to have a plan in place right now with the folks that we do have that are able to drive for us. So I didn't mention it, but I also want to make sure and touch base that we provide for preschool and for students with special needs, and those routes wouldn't change because those are already set and already running, so we're already going there, okay? So with that, questions, Amanda? Yeah.
Go ahead, Amanda.
So with option 2, would the buses be able to accommodate the neighborhood walkers to be able to walk to their local elementary school and jump on a bus to Lincoln or Pullman High School?
Yes, yes, because the idea is that they would unload several elementary students and then would be able to gather those students to get on the bus and then head up.
Because a lot of kids can walk to their elementary school.
Yes.
And that would get them to their secondary
And
school.
that was a hope that this would help alleviate a little bit to let that happen.
That would be huge.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Craig?
Supervision at each of the schools where all these kids are transferring.
Yes.
I mean, is that going to be added supervision at the building level or at transportation level? Who's going to
Yeah.
provide the transportation?
Right, who's going to provide that supervision?
Of that.
We typically have morning supervision already at schools, and some of we are already doing some transitioning at those buildings already. Not every school does that, so we would have to adjust that a bit, but it would most likely be building supervision. And we actually talked about that earlier today a little bit as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Justin, I appreciate it. And Craig, go ahead, please.
Well, Bob has a.
So, I just want to mention, so one of the things we also, Justin, I don't think he mentioned in this presentation, but over spring break, we were looking at doing a dry run to see how well this would really play out.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's still the plan, but.
Yeah, we've mapped it out in the program that we use called Trip Finders. We can do that, and that's how we get, that's gonna cost us about 25 more minutes or so than what we're running. But we also thought if this is something we really wanna explore, that over spring break when we don't have students, we could have our drivers run that and time it, and obviously time for stops and see how that would work as well. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're okay, you're okay. Are there any other questions? Please,
Quick
Lisa.
question. If we didn't go with this, would we expect things to stay the same with Pullman Transit, or is that kind of an ongoing conversation as well?
I think from my perspective, and Nathan was there, we were at the table, that we would plan to just stay the same with what we're running right now. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just since this is the first, I think, formal update we've had since the downtown construction is done, and I was just curious, I know that there were issues at the beginning of the school year related to that.
Yes.
Has that helped alleviate issues or clarify anything? Just wondering.
Yeah, it has. It helped alleviate a bit, because we were having, buses were just going around that just to stay away from it and going, and taking a few more minutes to get places, and so that's helped to be able to.
It's helped the
use
LMS
downtown.
schedule a lot. Like
Yes.
I would say, because that's
Yes.
been much better.
Yep.
And I just wanted to share a few thoughts. Justin, first, thank you very much. I had asked Justin to put this together for the board just so that we would have some context for what our options looked like. I did have a question for you. So this is sort of a no added revenue, no added funds, you know, this is like living in our means currently. And so
Yeah.
can you tell us like how many buses versus drivers we have?
Yeah, so we have plenty of buses. The buses would not be an issue right now. It would be great if we got to the point where we had so many drivers that we needed more buses. That would be a wonderful challenge to take on. We have plenty of buses right now to do more than what we have on the table right now. Just to shorten the time of that 25 minutes, 20 minutes, to shorten that down, we need more drivers. And we could then change our plans and condense things down a bit.
And if you'd help us understand the constraints on the drivers, is it a budget situation? Or is it a availability of drivers situation? Or is it a combination of both?
I think it's probably a combination of both, I would say. I think, you know, we've been able to push out more information and try to get more folks and have really stretched out to reach more people. But when it comes to the financial piece, of course, if the money's right, people might be a little more interested as well, right? But that's gonna, of course, then increase costs on things, and so it's that balance. But so far, what we're doing with the recruiting, we are getting more folks. We're happy with that. We're putting a lot of work in to get those folks trained and ready to go. And of late, they've had to go up and test, and Colville has been the closest place to test, which has been wild. And thankfully, our mechanic is going to go through some training so that he can become a tester, so that he
that'll
can
be
test
handy.
not
Just
only
for the
our
area.
folks, so he can test our folks in Pullman, and then also other districts around can come in and we can test them as well. So that would be really helpful too. So a lot of people working really hard, doing positive things to make a difference, and I'm hoping that that's getting out and attracting more people to want to come and drive for the district.
No, thank you. And just real quick, my last point is I know that it's been a continuous process with the city busing, you know, and we've had our ups and downs, and there's been some uncertainty with that. And so I really appreciate having like a backup plan, just in general.
Yeah.
I would like to kind of stew on this. I would like the board to stew on this for a little while. My plan is to add it to a work session, because I would like to talk a few options. And I'll just briefly, and this is no promises, and you know, you guys can all tell me your opinions. But I know that we have some levy capacity, and a transportation levy is in the cards potentially if we needed more funds for drivers, for instance. I know that paying a competitive wage for drivers is, from what I understood, one of the biggest constraints in keeping them and maintaining them in the district is like giving them the wage that they need. And so I think one alternative that we could look at, because I will say some of our rural routes are already an hour and a half, right? And so if we're adding 25 minutes onto that, that's like 2 hours, you know, like it's, and I don't want to shortchange some of the students for the benefit of some of the other students, right? And so I don't know where that line is, and I don't know what's going to happen with Pullman transportation, but I think probably once the budget situation is more consolidated, and especially with the city too, because they're up in a budget crunch as well, I would like to bring this back just as a discussion in a work session to say, okay, do we want to pursue one of these options? Do we want to consider a third option? Or do we want to do something else, right? So just kind of be stewing on that. And then, you know, we'll kind of proceed with the discussion as we go. And is that okay, Justin? I mean, do you have any objections?
Nope, none.
Okay, cool. And thank you very much, because I really wanted some meat to kind of chew on, right? Like we needed something to discuss, and until we start doing the planning, it's sort of the apple in the cart, you know, like how do we get going? And so I really appreciate having the options, and especially if we end up worst case and just have to do it, it's good to know that we have a plan, right? So I mean, I appreciate the progress, but I'd like to keep this discussion going if y'all are open to it. So, are there any final questions for Justin? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, yeah, please, Bob, sorry.
So just a couple comments. So, two things. So, bus recruitment for drivers has changed ever since Washington State legalized marijuana, because our bus transportation, we have to follow federal rules, which you cannot have that in your system at all. And so that's limited some of the availability of drivers, so that's one. Second, I just want to thank Justin. You may not know, but Justin's been doing a lot of advocacy and has testified at the state, during the state legislative session, to try to get more transportation funding. He and I testified the same evening. Just so you know, many school districts get 100% of their transportation funded, and many do not. And we're one of the ones that do not, because of the STAR formula, which
the efficiency formula.
no one really quite understands the entire formula and how it allocates funds, but it's approximately 76% of our transportation is funded through the STAR formula. Typically, urban districts are 100%, because there is a factor of how many kids you're picking up and dropping off at each stop to be efficient. It's one of the factors, it's not all, but if you can imagine going out to Almota and picking up 5 students and coming back, it's not the most efficient, right, according to this formula. So it's one of the things that I've been working on for the past 3 years with the legislative session. We're making some gains, I think, hopefully, but so just to know that it's very complex to get the funding for transportation, and we're going to continue to work on that.
So quickly, I was told by a constituent, so I'm just passing this comment on, that if we wanted to get beyond the STARS formula, we should just pick all the students up and then drop them off like 10 feet down the road, because then they're technically filling the bus. And so I don't know if that's a possibility, but I just wanted to pass that thought along as someone gave it to me, so now it's yours. Are there any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Okay, thank you very much, Justin.
Okay.
We appreciate all the work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go into our equity and belonging update. And so I'll start with Craig and then Bob.
Okay, the DIB committee's been working hard. I think we're about ready to roll out a survey to find out where the issues are. We have a star member of our task force in Courtney that's helped a great deal in putting together some of those things, and really putting together most of all of it. But I think we're ready to go over that next hurdle to start collecting some data.
Nice, that's exciting. Thanks for the update, Craig. Bob?
Not a whole lot, just trying to keep up with the latest executive orders and dear colleague letters and different things that are coming out. And so a lot of these things are being challenged in the court systems, and I think it's going to be probably that process for quite a while. So we're just kind of monitoring as we get any new information. We're posting it on our website, so called Safe and Welcoming Schools. So we'll try to keep that updated as we can. Every day's kind of a new day with some information, but we do have a place that we're putting the information that we know, and we'll continue to try to keep folks updated on the latest in news.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Maxwell. Next, we'll move to the public comment section of the board agenda. Just real quick, is everyone who would like to speak this evening signed up to speak? You have to sign the agenda. Last chance? Perfect, okay. The public comment section of the agenda provides an opportunity for individuals or members of a group to address the board on educational issues. If you intend to provide public comment this evening, you may register to speak using the sign-in sheet located near the boardroom entrance. To ensure fairness and provided for an orderly meeting, we respectfully require that individuals speak only once for a maximum of 3 minutes and may not transfer their speaking time to others. Please be attentive as your name will be called in the order it is listed on the sign-in sheet. To assist board members in review and consideration of your comments, we appreciate your providing a written copy of your remarks along with your email or mailing address on the sign-in sheet. When addressing the board, please approach the microphone and state your name before presenting your comments. The board will listen and may offer clarification if needed. However, the board will not engage in a discussion at this time. Depending on the nature of the topic, the board may decide to schedule it as a discussion item for a future meeting. We kindly request that all comments remain civil and respectful and remind you to consider the impact of your words and know that you bear personal responsibility for their content. We caution you to avoid certain statements that may infringe upon the rights of others under various laws, including those protecting privacy or prohibiting defamation. Providing public comment demonstrates your feelings of engagement and participation in decision-making process in our community, and we thank you in advance for your public comment. And I'd like to just have one person this evening, Cooper Jaquish, is that correct? Jaquish, sorry about that. Please come up. Good evening. And we'll time you for the 3 minutes. We'll give you some warnings and
Are
stuff.
you ready,
too.
Coop?
Good evening. My name is Cooper Jaquish, and I've served the Pullman School District for 11 years. I'm also a parent of 2 children in the district, a taxpayer, and the former Pullman ESP president. I appreciate the opportunity to share my perspective tonight. I'd like to directly address comments made by Mr. Joe Thornton at the last school board meeting. Mr. Thornton raised concerns about the superintendent's contract renewal process being treated in a transparent and open manner. He likened the superintendent's contract to that of many other employees the board technically hires. With all due respect, they are not the same. The superintendent is the sole employee directly hired, evaluated, and renewed by the school board. His position is unique, and the community has a right to see how decisions about his contract are made. Transparency is critical in cultivating trust. Well-intentioned yet difficult decisions can be easily misunderstood by the community. For example, according to OSPI, Dr. Maxwell's 23-24 salary was over $257,000, a 32% increase from the 1920 school year. During that same time period, my own salary as a district employee increased by 17%, while inflation was 23%. In 2023, Dr. Maxwell's administrative team, including Mr. Thornton, received a 5.2% COLA, while the rest of the district, including bus drivers, received 4.7%. It's difficult for me to see how these decisions align with the district's stated priorities. Finally, there was an outright accusation that Mr. Craig Nelson's calls for transparency are being driven by a personal vendetta. I believe that's unfair and inaccurate. The vote of no confidence against Dr. Maxwell in 2018 left a lasting mark on this community. Those concerns were never fully resolved, despite the district's commitment to its cultural beliefs. I believe many of those unresolved concerns are directly related to and exemplified by things such as inequitable pay raises. As union president last year, I was invited to a closed forum attended by around 60 concerned community members. They were not all people with personal vendettas, nor were they a small subset of individuals. They were and are parents, staff, and engaged residents who feel unheard and dismissed by district leadership. When Mr. Nelson campaigned for school board, he did so with the promise of transparency and holding district leadership accountable. He won by a landslide. To me, that was a clear message from the community. Trust and long-term stability are at stake without transparency in the difficult decisions to come. I have concerns about how the district will prioritize budget cuts, and I urge the board to continue to strive for the highest standards of accountability. My youngest child will be in the district for another 10 years, and these decisions have ramifications far beyond 2028. This is not about punishing an individual, nor is it de facto commentary on an individual's job performance. It's about ensuring that the highest paid employee in the district, with the most authority over how our schools operate, is held to the highest standard by the Pullman community. Thank you.
Thank you. No applause, please. Thank you. Thank you for the copy, by the way, Cooper. All right, next we'll move to our consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Would anyone like to remove anything this evening? Okay, seeing none, entertain a motion.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Nice. I'm excited. Next, we move to action items. Action items have previously been discussed by the board. The board will now take action by motion. We'll start with policy 1630, 1630P, superintendent evaluation by Nathan Roberts and Aaron Carter. And just as a reminder, we had been discussing this for a fairly good while, and we had two kind of policy proposals coming up. Aaron and I met over several times and decided to kind of merge them together into a policy and a procedure so that we could kind of clarify what's going on, especially for the new board chair, whoever that may be, because it was super confusing when I started this. So I'm super glad that we have at least an outline of what we're doing and some good dates and stuff going on. So I did not get any feedback or questions on the document, and so are there any questions or feedback now? Okay, seeing then, I will entertain a motion.
I do have just one quick question.
Yeah, please.
So if we do pass this, then there would be some forms that we create that go along with it?
Oh yeah, I hooked the chair onto that, so that, no, so in the procedure, it says the chair will provide a form for the June evaluation.
So the
and
chair at the time?
Yeah, the chair at the time. And so my intention is to provide a form and then have it attached as an appendix to the procedure. And so I think you'll have the form by next year. It'll just basically be an appendix on the procedure. And then if we need to change it, we will.
Okay.
Because we weren't sure quite like how we would use the form. And so I wanted to come up, Aaron and I like got some samples from some districts and we were just gonna try one. And then honestly, my plan was during the retreat to discuss how we thought that went. And then once we kind of like got a good form, to just put it in the procedure. And then that way it's there and nobody, it's very clear,
Yeah,
right?
great, thank you.
Yeah, good question. Any others?
I move approval of policy 1630, 1630P, superintendent evaluation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve policy 1630, 1630P, superintendent evaluation. Are there any questions on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for doing that work. Both of them.
No, I think with such a new kind of process, there was a lot yet to be defined, and so I think we had a little bit of work to do. So I do appreciate Aaron's contribution on that, and thank you all for the discussion. It was very helpful. And that is our only, am I wrong? Is that our only action?
Yeah.
Nice. All right, next we'll move to discussion items. Discussion items are presented to the board for discussion. If they need action, they will be brought back at the next meeting. Excuse me. And so we'll begin with our 2025-2026 Lincoln Middle School and Pullman High School fee schedules. Who is this presented by the way? There's no... Oh, Debbie, come on up. Sorry, they left your name off. I'm just like, I sort of freeze when I hit a line, and I'm like, I don't know what to say now.
I've got the high school one. So,
I'll do the notes.
the fee schedules first. Okay, so we
Y'all
did,
have a good evening.
we did make a couple changes to our fee schedule. They're minor-ish. The senior lifetime fitness class is the class that goes out and does all the field trips, and just with the cost of things going up, we bumped the cost of that up from 40 to 50. And then I'm gonna skip down to clubs, then I'll come back to ASB. The club fees that changed, the 3 skills clubs are CTSOs for our CTE classes. Some of our CTE clubs had fees and some didn't. So the cost of that, we put it across the board so that all of those CTSO clubs had fees for materials and things when students are working in them. And then Science Olympiad bumped up $5. And then our other change is our ASB card structure. So last year, or this current year, all of our cards are $50. We looked at districts across the GSL and similar size, all of them are a lot higher than we are. We do need to bump it up a little bit. So the plan that we came up with was to have 2 different types of cards. So students that are just doing a club or activity that still need to have a card but may not be in sports and traveling all the time, have that card be $30. And then if they're in athletics, then that card is the one that bumped up a little bit to $70. They can still get into all games with either card, but just giving it a little option. And then our students, with all these fines and fees, or not fines, with all these fees, our students that qualify for free and reduced lunch get these fees waived. So that's a piece of that too. Questions on the fee
Any
schedule?
Just
Craig
for-
and then Lisa. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead first.
For the clubs,
Uh-huh.
that's just for club activities? That's not for class activities?
No
Those are
clubs,
all-
just clubs. So, but they have to have an ASB card to be part of a
Right,
club,
right.
so,
That
yep,
makes
not a
sense,
class.
Lisa, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understood correctly in case anybody asks us about
Yes.
this, that the athletic card would be more because, and that most of that difference goes toward
All the
transportation
travel
and
and
travel
all the
because
things that,
participating in.
yeah, that go
makes
with
sense.
athletics.
Thank you.
And we thought, rather than raising everybody's fees, we could make it a little more equitable for the kids that are just in clubs.
Okay, and then did you have a Lincoln Middle School part there?
So well, it's pretty easy. The ASB card's gonna, at the middle school, will remain the same at $30. No price increase.
All right, are there any questions on either one of those, y'all? All right, thank you, Debbie. I'd like to ask
Yeah.
you to remain
Yep.
for the 2025-2026 Lincoln Middle School and Pullman High School course approvals.
Perfect. So we have not added any new courses this year. The course book is essentially the same. There's a sheet in there with all of the changes. Most of the changes are adding a line for our dual credit classes to say college credit could be part of this course. A lot of our CTE courses are now aligned to be dual credited if students choose to. We also changed dates, just for the yearly switchover of dates. And then a couple other edits were just minor edits, like the bigger one, senior English, added that it's senior level English rather than just world literature. And other than that, it's really just adding dual credit comments to most of them.
All right, and then Dr. Maxwell?
So there have been no changes to the LMS course guide for the 25-26 school year to remain the same.
And is that, so that basically indicates we haven't added or removed any courses from the middle school? Okay, perfect, thank you. Any questions? Karen, please.
On the dual credit options,
Mhm.
would it be beneficial to list in there what colleges they could actually get
Oh,
that
we could
dual
do that.
credit for?
Yep.
Because I know sometimes, right, not all credits transfer equally across universities. So, you know, if you're planning on, you know, attending a certain university and you looked at that, you could actually start
Which ones were yours?
looking to see which ones could transfer, so a
Absolutely.
student doesn't get into a situation where they think, oh, I can take this, I get this Eastern Washington University credit, but then when I go to Oregon State University, it doesn't
Transfer easily. Absolutely.
And might just be, if it's available.
So the last page of the course book we have I added hang on. It has the college and the high school classes. We added the dual credit CTE ones to that page. So would it be if after each course, if I just put a dash and say credit available through and have the college
Yeah.
as an edit on it? I can have that for the next time it comes back up.
Yeah.
That,
Can I make a
is that,
Yeah, please.
Debbie, I just also assume that we clearly stipulate that that's of no cost to students.
oh, yes, it is of no cost to students. And,
Yeah.
and it's an option. They don't have to be in the college and the high school courses. They do not have to take it for college credit. They can still be in the course and just be in the course. They choose whether they want to do the college credit option, part of it or not. So it gives a little more flexibility in there.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much, Dan.
Perfect,
Have a
thank
good
you.
evening. Okay, and then next we will discuss resolutions 25-2602, the 2025-2026 annual WIAA membership. As far as I understand, this is a requirement to be a part of WIAA, is annually the board must approve the resolution that says we participate. So Amanda, is there, as our WIAA representative, is there anything that you would like to add?
Nope. The only thing on the table is the potential amendment changes, but if we're gonna be a part of the WIAA, we have to follow whichever amendments are active at the time, so.
And I did send the board the handbook for the WIAA, and there's whatever page I cited, I don't remember what it was, basically stipulates that for membership, you agree to all of the rules. And so they are the rule-making body, and then we just either participate or don't, right? So, are there any questions on this item?
Is this?
Craig, please?
Just that we don't have an option. If we're gonna have sports, we have to be part of it.
Yeah, exactly. If we're gonna
There's not
participate,
another
yes.
agency that does this. This is
That's a
it.
very good point.
Yeah. No
Yes,
choices.
I think our athletes probably would let us know pretty quick if
Yeah.
we were to do anything, so, yes.
Is this time sensitive? No, okay.
We can wait for next meeting?
Yeah, we can wait till next.
Okay,
week. Yeah,
cool.
It's fine.
Okay.
Oh, perfect, okay. So we're, as usual, ahead, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Courtney.
Okay, seeing no questions, I'll move on, but we'll have it around next time if you guys want to discuss. Next, we'll move to informational items. They do not require action or discussion by the board. The items are included in the agenda for the board to review and may be moved to the discussion items section of the board agenda by any board member. Informational items may include board procedure updates and non-substantive policy updates. Would anyone like to remove any informational items? Okay. Next, we will recess into an executive or closed session. The board will recess into this session by motion stating how long it will last and if action will be taken. Following the executive or closed session, the board president convenes the regular meeting. Bob, how long do you think we'll need?
Let's say 20 minutes.
20 minutes? Okay, and it is 7:33, so let's say 7:55.